Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from Brunswick Exploration. Please note you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Killian Charles, President and CEO of Brunswick Exploration, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol BRWXF and on the TSXV under the symbol BRW. Welcome, Killian.
Thank you, Cecilia, and thank you, OTC, for having me today. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is quite an auspicious day for Brunswick Exploration. Not only did we announce some very interesting targets at Mirage, but I would like to remind everyone today that all restrictions for James Bay prospecting have been removed. Full access has been provided. So we're going to be quite excited to be going back and hitting some of the targets that we haven't had a chance of doing so this summer over the coming weeks. So let's dive into it. Today's presentation is mostly going to focus on discussions around our newest discovery at Mirage, which is Quebec's first true grassroots discovery in a number of years, if not decades. It is going to be the core focus of the company going forward because it has all the hallmarks of a world-class asset, and we are going to be working it very hard over the coming weeks and months. So let's dive into it. Obviously, we'll be making a few forward-looking statements, and I invite you to read this at your own time. Brunswick Exploration. As we've always said, it's been a focus on grassroots exploration. We decided about 18 months ago now to take on one of the largest grassroots portfolio in North America. The reason for that is that we've always noticed that a number of larger scale companies, established producers, were focused mostly on an execution basis and less so on the grassroots exploration. Seeing what had happened in Australia, seeing the lithium boom that had undergone in that country, we recognized that the same thing was potentially going to happen to Canada, especially as you see North American investment into green technology, obviously with the Inflation Reduction Act, generating over $500 billion of investment. Assets, specifically lithium assets, positioned in Canada are going to have a very rosy future. And so our view was to start looking. Remember that lithium exploration in Canada up until 24 months ago was largely non-existent. And so we took a very broad approach centered on geological concepts and an exploration strategy that allowed us to build our portfolio quite rapidly. Our view being that the Corvettes of this world, held by Patriot, the Adinas of this world, there remains to be more found in Canada. And we wanted to make sure that Brunswick stood at the forefront of these discoveries. So what did we do? We employed state-of-the-art technology to filter through a variety of targets, hundreds if not thousands across Canada, in the hopes of discovering the next true greenfield discovery. And that's what we believe we now have with Mirage. A number of market conditions out here, as you can imagine. The lithium boom has not really stopped, even though prices have retracted over the last few months. When we look out to the future on a medium to long term, nothing is changing. This remains a very immature industry. There is going to be a lot of movement. There is going to be a lot of discoveries being made, which we need to be able to meet many of these climate change objectives that are now being pushed globally. Remember that this Inflation Reduction Act in the US has had knock-on effects in Canada and similar knock-on effects in Europe as they try to hold on to this quote-unquote green economy. This has major implications for lithium and major implications for other commodities such as copper. But in this context for lithium, it definitely means that we need to find a lot of it and we need to find it fast. And that's where Brunswick steps in. I'm going to jump through a few of these slides and dive into the meat of it. James Bay. Quebec is going to be world renowned in the future. The amount of discoveries that have been made over the last 18 months is simply astounding. Whether it's the new resource and successful resource at that by Patriot with the Corvette, which is going to be absolutely a world-class asset. They are just getting started. Or James Bay project with from Alchem, I should say. We still have substantial amount of work to be done in the province. And Brunswick Exploration is the leading grassroots exploration company in the province, holding over 250 pegmatites near infrastructure, measuring a minimum strike length of 500 meters. These pegmatites are spread around approximately 58 different properties. Most of these were directly staked by Brunswick's team, and we have also struck a number of option agreements with Osisko James Bay on the Anaticow Plex project, as well as Midland for the Mitchell and Elron, and finally with Globex and One Minerals, as well as ODV around Mirage. These assets, I will remind everyone, we have not had the chance to fully work with them due to forest fire restriction, which are now lifted. However, even in the span of about, I would say, a few days back in June, our team had already uncovered a number of large-scale spodumene boulders. Once our team had gone back in early August, we set about looking for the source of these boulders at Mirage. And this is where things get interesting. The team has been highly successful in identifying multiple sources for these boulders. As you can see here, a little bit of a zoom in around Mirage itself. We're situated about 40 kilometers from the Trans-Taiga, which is a year-round access. The exploration right now is helicopter supported out of the Mirage camp, situated along the Trans-Taiga. And as it says right here, in the span of about 2 weeks, the team in the central part of the property already identified several spodumene dikes, of which 5 of them are quite sizable, measuring widths of over 25 meters and widths of up to 80 meters at surface. There is still a lot more work to be done across this property. As you can see here, where we see a little bit of a zoom in where we found those spodumene boulders and spodumene filled dikes, we can potentially see up to 2 trends. We have up to 2.7 kilometers of outcrops, all of them untested, all of them a brand new discovery, as well as over 3 kilometers of boulders. We have identified over hundreds of spodumene field boulders. We are now starting to believe that there might be multiple generation. We are seeing different mineralogy between the sources and the boulders themselves. There's still a lot more work. This is very much the early days. However, both the boulder field and the spodumene dike field remain absolutely open. This is something that is going to be the core focus of the company quite rapidly. We have teams right now in the field doing more prospecting work to ascertain the rest of the property, because as I will remind everyone, we have over 12 kilometers of untested strike potential here, with many more pegmatites in government documents. So this is going to be a quite exciting time for Brunswick. In support of this work, which you can see here with one of these major dikes that was identified, you can sort of make out one of the geologists here standing on one of the outcrops. This outcrop here surfacing in top of a larger mound, if you will. We are going to be launching a major drill campaign, helicopter drill campaign, which will be starting in the first 2 weeks of September. This campaign will initially start with 1 drill rig and will move to a 2nd drill rig as quickly as possible. We are definitely going to be pushing quite hard on this particular asset because we do believe that there is a lot of potential going forward. You can see already, this is a clear example of some of the boulders that were found. They are quite large, quite angular. And so we have found hundreds of these boulders, indicating that there are potentially multiple sources yet to have been found. Some of these boulders have probably not traveled very far and might actually be as well in situ. So there's going to be a lot more work, a lot more prospecting. We are going to be flying LiDAR. We're going to be doing some detailed geophysics, whether it's gravity or mag, to try to identify either potential structure, potential avenue for these mineralized fluids to take. But as I'll again say it is absolutely the early days, and the indications that we are seeing right now are extremely exciting. And you can see it in the spodumene crystals itself. Here are two pictures, one from a boulder and another one from an actual dike itself. You can see that these are extremely large crystals, all the way up now to up to 100 centimeters long, up to 30 centimeters wide. Very, very pale color, off-white to sort of a grayish beige. We will be doing metallurgical work in the near future, but the implications are already looking pretty strong. Typically, paler spodumene crystals are associated to lower amount of impurities. Larger crystal size is often as well associated to not so much better recoveries, but cheaper processing. Instead of using sort of a flotation circuit in conjunction with mechanical separation through a DMS circuit, you can instead just use the DMS circuit, which is what Patriot is looking at to do. They have similar size crystals at the Corvette project, and is what has been successfully used across Western Australia for other deposits with similar mineralogy. So for us, this is an extremely exciting project. We are going to be working very hard at this asset, but we have yet to work the rest of our package. So while this is going to be the focus and 90% of our attention, we cannot forget that the James Bay area is probably one of the most exciting jurisdictions in the world for lithium exploration, and will be known on a global scale given a few more years. Considering that we have such a large-scale portfolio, it behooves us to go ahead and do more exploration across our entire package. This will be starting shortly now that road access has been reopened and that the forest fires are largely under control. Our initial work will focus on the Mitchell, Plex, Elron, and Anatical package. Here you can see the Mitchell and Plex package. Mitchell is situated immediately due north. We have a contiguous claim boundary with Corvette, which is Patriot's asset. So here we are looking for a number of spodumene dikes that have been mapped in government database along the property boundaries. We have not yet gone to go check them out. We also have the Plex project, which is about 70 odd kilometers to the west, located along the same structure that hosts the Corvette deposit, as well as the Canset target from Winsome. We have over 250 showings of various size. These showings are pegmatite showings that no one has actually ascertained their lithium potential across this Plex project. We are going to be working here quite soon and hoping to make further discoveries. This is an extremely exciting land package that we have built in one of the most exciting belts for lithium in the world. Again, these assets are situated just along the Trans-Taiga and so benefit from substantial infrastructure as necessary to advance them and develop them. We also have further to the south, we have our Anatical project, including the Anatical West, as well as a number of regional claims. These two assets are located near the Billy Diamond Highway, colloquially known as the James Bay Highway, right next to what is a large-scale truck stop, Outpost 381. We had drilled in the fall and intercepted mineralization at Anatical West. These are a set of claims that are contiguous to Alchem's James Bay project. We drilled, and I will jump here, we drilled over 25 meters at 1.51% in up to 2 different pegmatites. These are open along strike. These are open at depth. We had done some quite strong success right off the bat, but we still have much more to do in the area. Case in point, when we started working on the Anatacao main asset, when we started doing prospecting, because again, these are assets that have not been prospected for lithium, what we rapidly realized and uncovered is a new lithium showing known as the NAS showing. You can see here both in plan view as well as in a photo here, aerial photo. You can see that it stretches over 100 meters and having maximum width up to 15 meters. Rock chip samples have come back with extremely high grades, all the way up between 3 and 3.5% lithium oxide. This will be a target that will be drilled post drilling at Mirage. Again, Brunswick exploration has always been a focus of testing as many targets and uncovering as many opportunities across all of Canada. James Bay is moving quite rapidly, and we've been locked out for a while, and so we are focusing all of our time as quickly as possible on this asset to make up for lost time, but as well as to advance many of these assets. Now, again, Mirage represents, irrespective of everything else, Mirage represents the absolute core of Brunswick at this time. The extent of mineralization, the grades that we're seeing, the mineralogy that we are seeing indicates that we are onto something special, which will be worked as quickly as possible. We have a major drill program planned already in Q4 of this year, I should say late Q3 into early Q4 of this year. We are going to be working this as hard as possible. We have teams in the field right now continuing the work that had been done since early August. It has been absolutely a roller coaster ride up until now, but we remain absolutely at the start of this asset with a lot more discoveries to be made. As we continue to advance this in the background, we will continue to work the rest of our portfolio, because as I said at the start, our view is that grassroots exploration was largely foregone by established producers, and there is a lot of potential new discoveries in the province, and Brunswick is best positioned to move the needle forward and make new grassroots discoveries, as we have done as Mirage, which is the largest grassroots or the most exciting grassroots discovery made in a number of decades in James Bay. Currently, as it stands with Brunswick exploration, we have over $13 million in the bank account, so we have ample capital to go ahead and execute on this plan, execute on our strategy to work Mirage, and surface new discoveries across the rest of our portfolio. With that, I'm more than happy to switch to Q&A. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I will read them out and then proceed to answer them. So I'll start with a question here that says, can you confirm that Mirage claim is not on the LG6 hydro floodplain? Now, I guess there's been a number of discussions around that point. I want to highlight here that the LG6 floodplain is not something that happens overnight. It was first delineated by the government in the 1980s, approximately 1986. There is no plans by the government to build a hydroelectrical dam right now for LG6. It is not the dam itself. It is the floodplain of the dam. So there is obviously going to be a number of discussions with actors between the government and private corporations to make sure that they're not impeding on two fronts. You have to remember that the government built the best dams first. And so the hydroelectrical potential of things like LG6 are much further behind than, let's say, LG2 or LG4. Again, these are not things that happen overnight, but are instead measured over decades. The government has had no indication of going ahead and moving on that front. So we are quite confident that there is going to be no changes. I, again, will remind a lot of the viewers that when it came to OTCQB, when it came to moving the town of Malartic, it was a question of sitting down with the government, sitting down with the population, and finding a solution to everyone. When we look at the potential in this area, when we look at the need for lithium, we are quite confident that everyone and everything can be balanced, but from the perspective of the government of generating future hydroelectrical needs, at the same time as ensuring that there is a good source of lithium to feed into the North American market. It's kind of hard to have a green revolution when one doesn't have any lithium to go on. So we are quite confident that it will have no impact on the type of work that we are doing. Again, these are the type of projects that are decades down the line. Could very well be that we've finished mining it by the time we see anything really moving from the government. I see another question here that says, when will we be drilling at Anatical, Maine? It's an excellent question. Obviously, right now we are going to focus on our work at Mirage. It is definitely the most exciting part of our portfolio. We wish to complete prospecting across the other portions of our portfolio. We will sequence something like Anatical, Maine slightly further down the line. What does that mean? It probably means in the early winter months, probably in late December, early January, as we gear up for a larger campaign around Mirage, obviously success dependent. Our view is definitely finding a question of balance. We have always taken the view that any lithium discovery that we make requires to be drilled. We are not interested in optioning it or doing any type of transaction until we ascertain the potential of that particular asset and understand the best way to monetize it for ourselves and for shareholders. So currently we are working on plans to drill this particular asset, but the natural sequence of it will be after Mirage, as we digest the first set of drilling at Mirage and plan for a larger campaign into 2024. It is the perfect time to gear up on a number of secondary targets across the portfolio and work through them just prior to moving back into Mirage. I see another question here as it relates to the source of the boulders at Mirage. We believe that we have found some of the sources of the boulders. The boulder field is quite constrained, over 3 kilometers in terms of a north and southerly direction. Is the boulders all associated to what the sources that we have found? A portion could be explained by it, but probably not all of them. Some of these boulders are extremely large, carry grade that is even higher than what we see in the outcrops. So it is possible that there may be new sources that are simply buried underneath overburden that we have not seen yet. And so that's the type of work that we are doing right now. We have plans to facilitate and try to uncover some of these new sources. There is still a lot more work to be done. Again, the boulder field and the dike field remain open in all directions, and there remains many more discoveries. We are convinced that there remains many more discoveries to be had at Mirage itself. How many sources have we identified for boulders? Right now, we have over 8 different sources. Main ones that matter is what we can see at surface, of which 5 of them measure over 25 meters wide and up to 80 meters wide at surface. So there's a lot of opportunities here. We are going to obviously focus on drilling some of the larger ones first, and then moving down into essentially a priority list across the identified sources to date. Obviously, with crews right now in the field, some of these plans may slightly change. We may uncover new sources. We may uncover, sources of a similar size, if that is the case. And obviously, we will sequence them into our exploration drill program scheduled for early September. What do I see here? I see what happened to the glacial direction. Obviously, having done more work, we've tightened up our assumptions as it results to glaciation. We now believe that it remains to be sub-parallel to the boulder field. And so there is potential, and that's why we believe that some of these sources may be found in the dikes. However, the size of the boulders indicates that some of these could not have traveled or potentially could not have traveled from the identified sources. And so it would stand to reason that there might be new sources for some of these boulders. We do have plans for more work in the area. We're always in the lookout for potential and ways of working with a variety of partners and seeing how well we can work on that front. For us, we believe that everyone wins if we keep making new discovery in the James Bay. I think it speaks to the potential of the area when we have discovery after discovery made. It's not a problem. It underscores the success of the location. It underscores the strategy to take a large portfolio in the area. It's easy on the gold side. Everyone thinks of Nevada. Nevada is a perfect environment for gold, and there are a number of world-class discoveries that have been made in that environment. And who's to say, given a few more years, the Nevada of lithium is in James Bay, is in Quebec. It's going to be quite exciting to be working with a number of partners and seeing all of us make a number of discovery. And hopefully we still have many more world-class discoveries to make across our portfolio. And Mirage is simply the first of many more to come. If there's no other questions, I guess we can wrap it up. I'd like to thank everyone for your time, and I'm happy to, if you have any other questions, please reach out to the email address provided here, and it will be our pleasure to reply to you. Thank you.